We're ready for Coach Lubick. I'll start with Steven Sipple. Sipple, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm coming, Seamus. Just trying to get set up. Coach, hi, Coach. What were your first impressions of Iowa's defense, particularly up front?
Sure. I mean, first of all, really, really good. Statistically, I think in most categories, you're at the top of the conference. So very sound, very physical. They're good up front, strong. Their linebackers run really well. They come downhill. They make you earn everything you got. They don't give up a ton of big plays. So we got our work cut out for us.
Have you looked at third down and what you guys can do better on third down?
Yeah, that's something we practice all the time. Part of it's game plan. Part of it's getting in manageable situations. We've had a lot of third and longs. And the percentage of converting third and longs as opposed to third and short and third and medium is not good. And so that's a big part of it is doing better on first and second down. So we're on our third downs are more manageable situations, which we work. But it's something that we stress every day. We do, like for example, today we did 2 third down periods. We'll do another third down period tomorrow. It's something you got to practice because I'm a big believer. I mean, yeah, you can win or lose games on third down because if you don't convert on third down, it's a turnover. And if you do convert, well, then you keep the ball and at least a big plays and a whole bunch of other things. So, yeah, third down is one of the things that wins and loses football games that we're trying to get better at.
Thank you, Coach.
Mitch Sherman.
Thanks.
Hey, Matt, can you assess what you saw from your passing game on Saturday? What did work, and what you can fix in a short period of time?
Sure. Well, first, inconsistencies across the board. And it starts with the coaches. How can we put guys in better situations? And that's the first thing. Anytime you lose a football game, you got to look within. Number one, putting guys in good situations, putting guys in situations that they can handle, and making sure it's the right guys in those situations. So that's something we talk about every day. Against Illinois in particular, is inconsistent. They did make it challenging throwing the ball down the field on some of the, especially long yardage situations because, the safeties are 20 yards deep and everyone's dropping. They kind of force you to lay it off. But when they do force you to lay it off, we got to convert those, and run for first downs. And we had a couple of those where it was either a guy might not be in the right position or, the throw was a little bit off. And those layoffs, I mean, you got to be 100% on those because those are easy throws. And then, the guy catching the ball has got to do a good job of ball security and getting us a first down when they play those situations. But that was pretty much it, and that not just the passing game, but just consistency all over. Because the better you run the ball, then that helps you from a passing standpoint because they got to play a little bit different. If they know you're in a situation where you got to throw the ball, it's to their advantage, and they can put more guys in coverage and they can play a lot softer.
Brian Christopherson.
Thanks.
Hey, Matt, how are those freshman receiver at taking critiques and understanding the process of getting better and having patience that it doesn't all come right away? How are they at that?
Sure. They've been doing a good job. I think, everyone gets frustrated when you lose. They all want to play better. We all want to play better. We want to coach better. It's a work in progress. We're in a situation where, we're playing a lot of freshmen. That's not an excuse. It is what it is. And those guys, we got to play the best guys to give us a chance to win. Are they getting thrown into the fire a little bit more before they're ready? I don't know. At the end of the day, our opponents don't care if we're playing freshmen or seniors. And so they got to be ready to play. And so what we can do as coaches, that their attitude's been good, is just, we got to build their confidence. We got to put them in situations where they can be successful. We got to, as coaches, simplify our teaching so they can understand. That's a big thing with a freshman is they got to be able to understand your scheme to the point where they're not thinking, they can just react. Because when you're a freshman, you've got so many different things that you're thinking about. You're learning an offense. You don't play as fast. And so that's a big thing is how can we simplify, how can we make the teaching so easy for them that they can just use their talent and play, and that's something that we're always working on as coaches. But the attitude's been good. I mean, they showed that this has probably been one of our better weeks of practice, which says a lot about those guys, and they want to work. That's why we recruited them. They want to work and they want to get better.
I have one more if I could. Omar was on the sideline Saturday. Has he stayed engaged in the process? Could he still pop up this season before it's over, or what's the
Yeah, no,
situation?
he's been good. The biggest thing with him is we just got to get him healthy. And so that's kind of a day-to-day situation. We got to get him healthy. He was making a lot of progress, but he just had some health setbacks.
Thank you.
Sam McEwen?
A process question here for you, Matt. Like, when you guys go through evaluating your quarterback play from the weekend before, how does that all work? Because, I mean, Scott is the head coach, but he's also a former quarterback. Mario is the quarterback's coach, and you're the offensive coordinator. So what's the process you guys go through for evaluating and then communicating to the quarterbacks what you want to see from them going forward?
Yeah, good question. So number one, as a staff, we scrutinize every play at every position, including the quarterback position, and we talk about it. If he made a bad read or throws it off, why did that happen? What can we do as coaches to help fix that? And then at the end, again, it follows into practice. Okay, like this week, it's an open competition. They're very close. So we evaluate every day and we really discuss it every day. And so the whole offensive staff is seeing every single play the quarterback does, and we talk about it. What he did well, what he can do better. At the end of the day, the decision will be made by Coach Frost, but he does, he listens to everybody, and we all have input on it. I know we've been really straightforward with the quarterbacks. Hey, these are the expectations. You did some good things. These are the things that we need to do better, just like every other position. And, we basically said whoever practices the best again this week will be the starter on Saturday.
I guess another process question. When you don't agree, to whom does the tie go?
That always goes to the head coach. That always goes. Fortunately, we got a really tight staff. There is not a lot of disagreements. I think guys feel free to come up and say their opinion, say, hey, I feel strongly about this guy. And Coach Frost encourages that. That's what makes him a good head coach, is he wants you to speak his mind. He'll ask you, hey, what do you think here? And don't just say it because I want you to say it. I want you to say what you believe. So we have the freedom as coaches to do that. We just don't have to agree. But at the end of the day, I think it's the mark of just a good staff, a good organization. There is one person that makes the final decision, and whatever he says, regardless if you disagree or not disagree, we all move forward, we're on the same page, and we back it. But fortunately for us, most of our decisions are pretty unanimous.
I'm trying to think, because you've coached at a lot of different places. Has that been true everywhere you've been, even when you've had a defensive head coach? Have you worked for a defensive head coach? I don't even know if I recall.
I have. Yeah, I was fortunate enough. My dad, which was a great experience, a defensive. He's my hero, my best buddy, and he listens to all these. So hi, Dad. I worked for a defensive head coach, and I think every staff's different. I've been really lucky. I've been on a lot of good staffs where the head coach, and I think it's a sign of being a good leader, really wants to hear from the assistant coaches what they think. At the end of the day, they're responsible for making the final decision, but they want to hear that because sometimes they know that they give them a different vantage point. They're more involved. And so that's been good. Our situation here, Coach Frost is definitely an offensive coach. So that does help with his decision. With that, for that situation in particular, it's like, hey, because he sees it every day. It'd be probably a harder situation if the head coach was on defense and didn't really see what was going on with the quarterbacks. But he sees it every day. He gets involved in meetings. He's out of practice. He watches every rep, so he's definitely qualified to make a good decision. But in saying that, he does look to us for opinions.
Okay, we'll do three more quickly. Jacob?
Yeah, Coach, I had a question about the running back position. I know Diedrich's been banged up, and I'm just curious, in your opinion, as just an offensive coordinator and a football coach, do you like having a running back sort of by committee, or do you like more having one guy who can give you like 31 attempts a game or 20 attempts a game?
Yeah, it's a good question. It depends. I think you got to have more than one running back because it's the nature of the position. Guys get banged up. So that's and we think we have depth. If a guy gets hot, you always like to have a guy that can carry the ball 20 times a game, and some guys get better the more they carry it. So it's not there's not a perfect answer. I mean, you got to have. I'm a big believer. You got to have at least 4 running backs that can play, and when I say can play, they can all be trusted to carry the ball, pass protect, make plays with their hands, and we feel we have that. So because you just don't know what's going to happen. It's probably one of the positions that's most prone to injury, and so that's something that we feel we have depth. And when one guy goes down, it really is a next man up. And the only way you can have a next man up is you got to have a next man that's capable, and that guy that's not only capable is taking those type of reps.
And do you sort of feel like you have like when you do sort of have a committee, you have role players at running back, like you have one guy short yardage situation, one guy who can catch the ball. Is that kind of one of the things that's helpful about it?
Yeah, a little bit. I think each back's a little bit different. I mean, some guys might be a little more physical downhill runners, where some guys are better pass receivers. Some guys might be better at pass protecting. So I think each guy has his strengths and weaknesses, and we try to capitalize those and get those guys in the right situations.
Ron Kellen?
Hey, Coach, I wanted to go back to that very first play of the game on Saturday. When that play happened, I mean, from your vantage point, are you able to communicate with Scott, hey, I'm fairly positive, Coach, that was not a backwards pass. We better call timeout here, burn it, and have them look at this if they don't do it on the officiating end? I mean, what's the communication process like with your spot to Coach Frost in a situation like that?
Yeah, you bet. So we do have access to the video like all staffs do in the box, and basically what it definitely wasn't it wasn't close. I mean, it was close, but they reviewed it supposedly. The referees told us they reviewed it, and it is what it is, because we were going to challenge it, because that in that situation is definitely worth a challenge. We had it in the box. The box was kind of unclear cut. What we were told from the officials is that they looked at it.
And then I had one more on Oliver Martin. Is with his background with Iowa, do you get the sense this week means a lot more to him?
Oh yeah. I mean, Oliver. First of all, he's doing a great job for us, and it was good to see him make some plays in that game. You know, his progress has been slowed for us, not by his fault at all, but because we didn't know he was eligible until about 2 weeks ago. But to his credit, he's done a great job of staying in tune, learning, taking a bunch of mental reps, which got him on the field. And then once he got on the field, he made some plays for us. So I think he's got some confidence. And then, playing against a school that you used to be at is a big deal, and I'm sure it's going to help him.
Okay, we'll finish up with Parker Gabriel.
Hey, Matt. Greg Austin said, and I'm sure every football team out there said before the season, that you want to have things in the run game that you can really hang your hat on and do consistently and do well. And I'm wondering, do you have those to the extent that you'd like to at this point in this season? And what are they? What do you feel, that you guys can do well consistently in the run game at this point?
Sure. Well, first off, we talk about that all the time. Part of coaching is finding out what you're good at, and then once you do, I mean, how to make that better, and then doing that over and over and over again, but maybe like in different forms. And so, we thought, first of all, we got to be more consistent and better at everything, and we're always looking to do that. But you do really got to hone in on, say, hey, what is our bread and butter? We think we got to be able to run the ball outside zone and inside zone. That's been the bread and butter for the history of this offense. But still have the ability to get the ball on the perimeter, through different things, whether it's quick passing game, whether it's, just outside type runs and screens. And so, those are all things we've talked about. We've done well at times. The quarterback run game has been well at times. But one of the things that I think you're asking me too is we're trying to simplify. And that not just in the run game, but also in the passing game. And when you simplify, it's like, okay, what do you do really good? How do we improve on that? And not practice too many different things. Because the more you try to do a lot of things, it takes away from the stuff you're really good at. So we talk about that literally every day. And not just in the run game, but in the passing game. What can our guys understand and compete at a high level and run fast and execute? And part of that is, reps. And part of that is studying yourself. So we do a self-scout every game of what we've done well and what we haven't done well. And we did that same thing in fall camp.
That concludes our session with Coach Lubick. We'll be back momentarily with Coach Chinander.
Okay, joined now by Eric Chinander, and let's just give the first question to Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You guys have, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but on the third down front, is it just as simple as you guys have faced a lot of third and shorts or manageables, and those are tougher to stop? Or I guess, what do you attribute the high rate of third down conversions against you so far this season to?
Yeah, that certainly doesn't help. We need to get ourselves more third and longs. Obviously, the third and 3, third and 4s are they're tough on everybody. Obviously, the playbook's wide open. They can run the ball, they can pass the ball, but that's no excuse. We need to get off the field. Guys got to do their jobs. We got to do a better job of rushing the passer and caging the quarterback. We got to do a better job of sticking with our guy in coverage, and we just got to be able to get off the field on third down.
Next question comes from Sam McEwen, Omaha World Herald.
Eric, this issue predates your arrival at Nebraska, but it continues to be an issue, and that's run defense. Why is it hard to stop the run in the Big Ten, particularly, and why have you guys struggled to do so? And how do you amend it? I'm not sure you can amend it in 1 week, but generally speaking, what's the upward trend to getting better at doing it?
Well, the number one thing that has to be done is eliminate big plays. There's games where you would have good run defense if you eliminated a couple big plays, but you can't say, well, we played good except for those 2 plays, because then you don't play good. So it's just about everybody doing their job every single play. There's a few plays from last week where it's one guy doesn't turn the ball back, or one guy, goes one gap too far in pressure, or whatever the case may be. But those plays, when you give up a 40-yarder or 60-yarder, 100 yards on 2 plays is going to kill your run defense, statistically, if you'll say. So the number one thing is eliminating the big plays, and then you gotta, up front, we got to do a better job of tackling out the line of scrimmage and not giving extra yards. Those hidden yards are backbreakers too, where you hit the running back at the line of scrimmage or from 1, and he ends up getting 3 or 4. Those hidden yardages are backbreakers right now. So we need to get those 2 issues cleaned up.
I know that when Nebraska joined the Big Ten back in 2011, Bo was pretty honest about, we don't exactly have the personnel. In other words, the Big Ten was a bigger league and stronger, and Nebraska was in sort of a spread personnel defensively. Do you feel like personnel-wise, in terms of the players you have on the field and the recruiting that you're doing, that you guys are exactly where you want to be, or is it going to take another class or 2 to find the precise players that make run defense easier just because they fit the profile?
Yeah, are we exactly where we want to be? Probably not, but you can't blame the players. Saying we don't have the right players, that's not an excuse. We have the right players. We have good players. We have good kids. We've got to get them more ready to play football, and we've got to find a way to help them be better at their jobs, help them succeed on the field. So I don't want to sit here and say we need different players, because that's not an excuse. We've got to play with the guys that we've got, and we've got good ones. And I don't want to take anything away from the guys we've got. They can do this. I have confidence in them. They can do this. Do we always want to recruit more guys, more talent? Absolutely. But we need to get this done with the people we have in the program right now.
Thank you.
Next question from Kevin Suits, KOLN-KGIN.
Hey, Coach, curious the attitude of the team this week. If you look at this game, there's a lot rolled into it. It's a rivalry game. They obviously want to right their wrongs from a week ago. And also there's a shortened week, which typically would lend itself to having a little more sense of urgency. So what have you seen out of your team over the past few days at practice, and then mentally where they're at?
Yeah, I didn't know exactly what we were going to get. Obviously you're riding high after Penn State, and then you're pretty low after the last game. You don't know what you're going to get, and they came in ready to work, and they've been great. Coach Frost did a great job with them. They've just been, they were flying around on Sunday at the walkthrough. We had a little walkthrough, and they were trying to fly around then. They're ready to work. They have good spirits. they want to correct their mistakes. So I give nothing but compliments to the team for their attitude and coming into work on Sunday night, Monday morning.
Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald.
Hey, Eric, just wondering, as someone who played at Iowa and knows that program well, what does this rivalry mean kind of to both sides? And maybe what's the level of frustration around Nebraska about Iowa winning 5 straight in this series?
Well, I think the level of the rivalry is super high, and it's a relatively, I guess, newer rivalry in football because of the conference realignment. But I think there's been a lot of rivalries between the states for a long time in a lot of different categories. So I think it means a lot to not only the players on both sides, but the fans on both sides, the people of each state. This is a game that if you can't get ready for this one, then you probably don't need to be playing college football or at Nebraska, because this is a game that everybody's ready for, and everybody wants to win this game, and everybody better leave it all on the field on this one, because this is a game that's super, super important to not only our program, but the state of Nebraska.
Do you hear a lot from former teammates, a lot of trash talk about, how this series has gone recently?
No, to be honest with you, just like any teammate, no matter where you're come from or where you end up, that they're very supportive of me first. And to be honest with you, I don't really hear much from them this week, because they know that there'll be some bite back real hard. So I think that kind of everybody kind of leaves each other alone during this one. But aside from this week, my teammates have been there. They cheer for us whenever they can. So there's no banter or anything like that.
Okay, we've only got time for about 2 more. Next up, Mitch Sherman, The Athletic.
Hey, Eric, following up on Evan's question there about Iowa, what is it like to be in this situation going into this game when you guys obviously have your backs against the wall a bit and know that Iowa is an opponent that's likely to have it out for you a little more than some of the others you might play? Is that what kind of a spot is that to be in for your team?
You're back against the wall. I don't know if that's necessarily how you'd phrase it. I don't think you can ever play or you can coach. You can't be pressed all the time. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to, whole grade sale. Things got to, we got to win this one. You got to. Coach Frost has put a process in front of us, just like he's done everywhere we've ever been, and we have to follow the process, and we have to keep chipping away at the process, and we have to keep developing these players, and we have to keep doing the right thing. Now, when you go into a game like this, the thing that changes is there's extra energy in practice. There's, even though there should be that energy probably all the time, but you get that extra pep when you're coaching, when you're playing during the game. You're going to be able to go a few more plays or a few more series. You're going to dig down deep because you know how much this one matters. But to press because whatever, your back's against the wall, that's the wrong thing to do. Coach hard and coach right and keep developing fundamentals and techniques and players is the right thing to do. So I think that's the process Coach Frost is put in front of us.
Thanks.
Okay, last question for Coach Chinander comes from Martin Hers, Daily Nebraskan.
Hey, Coach. I guess for your third downs, what does your defense have to do better on first and second down in order to create a more favorable third down situation for your defense?
Well, ideally, in a perfect world, you'd get you can get a negative play on one of those first or second downs, and get the offense off schedule, get them behind the sticks a little bit. But you always want to be in 3rd and 7 plus is ideal. And in order to do that, you have to play. Obviously, we all know what has to happen. A few things have to happen. There has to be a stop on a run, and a negative play and/or an incomplete pass on first and second down. Those are the things that have to happen, and that's how you create really good series when you can, when you can manage the run game, or create a TFL. Then when it moves to the pass game, get a PBU and/or a sack, and then you get yourself in some really favorable third and long to extra longs.
Okay, that's all the time we have for Coach Chinander. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
Okay, we're joined now by Levi Falck. Again, if you have a question for Levi, go ahead and put that in the chat. Let's just go ahead and give the first question to who I wasn't able to get to with Chinander, Brian Christopherson, Nebraska 24/7.
Hey, Levi, when you analyze the passing game and sort of the struggles in trying to get this off the ground, what are some select items that you guys can improve on? You think that could help this week?
Yeah, just when going over the film, it's just kind of everything clicking at once, whether it's getting open, protection, or a good ball. It's just we need all that to go at the same time. And it's the struggles has just kind of been either one of those things is breaking down. And I think when we all do our job, it works out. So if we just all work together and do our job, we should be able to fix these struggles.
I asked Coach Lubick about this. Obviously, you've played more football than some of the other guys, but how do you see some of the freshmen responding to, it not all happening at once for them and, having to go through the process? How do they take the critiques and all that goes with playing college football?
Yeah, they're doing an awesome job. I've seen crazy improvement out of them, and I think after being in college football for a long time, I think that might be the hardest position to just step in, especially as a true freshman. We got a lot of those. There's a lot of details to playing wide receiver that you might not notice by just watching the game. Got a lot of run responsibilities where you got to block the safety or block the corner on certain run plays and certain coverages. You have to run your route a different way against different coverages. So it's difficult, and especially for true freshmen, but they're getting a lot better, and I've seen huge improvement out of them.
Thank you.
Next question from Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hey Levi, how's it been for you personally? Just getting going in this offense since you've been on campus, and do you feel like game action has sort of helped you get in rhythm?
Yeah, it kind of helps. At South Dakota, we ran a similar offense to this. So coming in, I kind of knew what to expect. I just had to learn basically the new names to the plays because a lot of the concepts are similar. So that helped coming from a similar offense. And yeah, the game reps have been helpful to get me into rhythm, and yeah.
Did you, just a quick follow-up, did you see Xavier at all in the fourth quarter there on Saturday? Did you realize that you were going to make contact with him going for the ball there?
Last second, I was just found some open space, and I was kind of just drifting with Adrian, and I saw him just lob the ball up, and I was like, all right, sweet, this should be a easy catch. No one was around me. And then last second, I saw a black jersey fly across, and I was like, oh, God. And luckily, yeah, the ball just kind of popped up nice and easy for me, so that was nice.
Steve Sipple, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hello, Levi. Do you have any sense of this rivalry? Like Eric Chinander said, it was super important to the program in the state. What is your sense of Nebraska, Iowa?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Minnesota, so I'm familiar with the Big Ten, and huge football fan when I was a kid. So I know Nebraska, Iowa is a huge game, and we've obviously went over that and reiterated how big this game is. And like always, you got to take one game at a time. And this is our one game, and we're going to treat this like the most important game. And I think we're going to come out ready.
Thank you.
Kevin Suits.
Levi, I just wanted to ask your perspective, the chemistry with the quarterbacks, the fact that it's open competition again this week between Adrian and Luke, knowing that some of the reps are being divided, how challenging is it to establish good chemistry with both of those guys while they try to evaluate that spot again this week?
Yeah, I think that kind of seems like it would be difficult, but we've had a lot of practices. I've been here since June 1st, and we've practiced a lot, and that just means a lot of reps with both those quarterbacks. So you don't really, at this point, you don't really notice a difference. You kind of know what to expect when you're out there with either Adrian or Luke, and they're both pretty similar, and they're both very talented. So I know all of us receivers have confidence in either one of those guys, and yeah, it's not much of a difference now this far into training.
Next question from Jacob Bartecki, KRNU.
Hey, Levi, I'm just curious. Obviously, the games are not exactly what you probably expected or what they were when you were recruited. They're empty stadiums. But I'm just curious what you've sort of thought about the city of Lincoln, the university, and what you've liked.
Yeah, I love it here. I think it's awesome. I am coming from South Dakota, where it's in Vermilion, and it's a tiny town. So coming up to here is, you just really take it for granted with all the eating options even, and just the stuff to do. And it's more of a city feel like what I'm used to, and I really appreciate it now coming from Vermilion, South Dakota.
Okay, that's all the questions we have for Levi. Thank you, Levi. Okay, we're joined now by Matt Farniok, and first question for Matt will come from Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hey, Matt, how did you feel like round two at center went compared to your first time, and just sort of gauge your comfort level there? And then second part of the question, what have you seen so far from Iowa's defensive front?
It was a little more comfortable. I mean, obviously, the second time around in anything that you do, you're going to be a little more fluid in it, and it felt more at ease. And then Iowa, I mean, they're always pretty similar to what they're going to do. They're a tough team. They're a physical team, and they don't really make mistakes. They kind of play on you making mistakes. So it just comes down, they're a team that's got great discipline, and to beat them, you also have to have great discipline.
Next question from Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald.
Matt, just curious when it comes to Iowa. I mean, what's the frustration level with kind of this skid you guys are on against them? And maybe what are a couple things that you can point to from the last couple games, which have obviously come right down to the wire, that if they flipped the other way, maybe this outcome's different this year?
Really, it just comes down to doing the little things right. I mean, everyone wants to say it comes down to the last second field goal, but all throughout the game, there might have been a missed block, a bad penalty, a lack of focus, a misread. A game really never comes down to one play. It comes down to a bunch of little things that add up. And beat a team like this that's extremely disciplined, you have to make sure that you're just as disciplined and doing everything right.
Sean Callahan, Husker Online.
Hey, Matt, you've obviously been around Adrian for a long time. How has he responded, do you think? Obviously, the last couple of weeks have not been easy, but he had to go back in there for you guys, and he could be the guy again for you this week. How has Adrian responded in the last few weeks?
He's responded really well. I mean, he's a competitor. He's always been a fighter, and that's really part of the reason he's a captain. I mean, he's a guy that he doesn't back away from a challenge. He always is going to stand up and fight no matter what the odds are, and that's why he's, again, a leader on this team and a captain. He's a guy that puts the team first before himself, and he's always working to better himself and the team.
Next question from Sam McEwen, Omaha World Herald.
Matt, you've been around a while, and I think we've always appreciated your honesty and the way that you've been a captain. What's it like right now for you guys? I mean, you're a senior and you're playing with a lot of young guys, and I'm curious what that's like for you. That maybe your final year of football is kind of spent shepherding young players who've never gone through this before, and what's sort of the mood of the locker room after a loss to Illinois and before Iowa?
Just mad, because like I was saying earlier, I mean, we weren't a disciplined team. We didn't hold on to the ball. We made mistakes, and those were things that we could fix individually, that we need to prep for individually. And I mean, really, it's a good type of mad, because everyone has a high standard for themselves and of each other. So, I mean, no one's happy with what we did last week, but we can't change what happened. You can only change tomorrow. And so far, there's been a great response by young guys and old guys of just working for tomorrow.
Did you have to, I don't know, if step on a few guys a little bit this week in order to get that point home that there's a standard that needs to be kept? I'm talking about younger players, not necessarily older guys.
No, for the most part, the young guys, I mean, they get it. They get the point of, we're here to be competitors, and to be a competitor, you got to do the little things right. Case in point, I mean, sometimes you kind of need those games. Illinois, they did a great job. They were disciplined. They beat us, plain and simple. And I mean, honestly, I think it was a good wake-up call for some guys of, hey, we need to be more disciplined. If we're gonna be the team we want to be, we can't be making these mistakes that we did.
Next question from Steve Sipple, Lincoln Journal-Star. Sipple, I think you're on mute.
Okay, are we good now? How would you assess the offensive line's play at this point of the season?
We've been doing all right. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I tend to measure the success of a group by, are we winning or losing? And obviously, we haven't been winning, so we need to find a way to be better. Whether it's just, and it's the little things, it's the little details, it's the hand placement, it's the steps, it's the communication. Obviously, they aren't good enough because we aren't winning yet. So we need to be a better group and a better unit as a team.
What's Greg's message been to you this week, Austin?
Big message is just small wins, being better than who you were yesterday, focusing on those little things such as hand placement, your steps, and the communication, because those little things add up to big things, even though they seem not important. If you stack all those little things together, they actually create quite a mountain that you'd have to climb if you ignore them.
Thank you very much.
That's all the questions that we have for Matt. We will have Casey Rogers momentarily as our last player today. Thank you, Matt. Okay, we're joined now by Casey Rogers. And for first question, let's just go to Sam McEwen, Omaha World Herald.
Yes, I know you've only been, in the league for a couple of years, but you've been through this now a couple of times since 2018. What's hard about stopping the run in the Big Ten? What's challenging about facing those teams, and why have you guys struggled?
Yeah, I think the one thing about the Big Ten that is pretty noticeable is the offensive linemen that you see in the Big Ten. They're big guys, and we have to be able to counter that on the other side of the ball with strength and technique and stuff like that. I think Saturday, it was obviously a disappointment overall. I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to work on that we have this week in practice, and that we're going to continue to practice and work on. But yeah, no, to be able to win football games, you got to be able to stop the run, and after that, after you stop the run, you earn the right to rush the passer, but that starts with stopping the run, and I think to be able to do that, you got to really work on your technique, and it starts in the weight room too. You got to be strong to be able to work with those big boys up front, and I think that we just got to keep working, and we have, and we're not going to stop working. So.
I'm guessing that up until the point you came to college, you were probably one of the bigger, stronger players on your team, maybe the biggest and the strongest player. So you get in that game last year against Wisconsin, then I think you played against Iowa too, and then you're playing Ohio State and so on and so on. What kind of culture shock was that when you get in games, even with your own offensive line at Nebraska, about how strong and how tough and how much endurance you have to play against that kind of lineman?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not even comparable to high school. So you could be the biggest guy you want in high school football, or you could be the biggest guy on the field and dominate in high school football. But once you get on the same field as these elite offensive linemen, you can't even compare it. It's not something that every high school kid can just go right to college, especially on the line and in the trenches. It's very uncommon for true freshmen or redshirt freshmen to be able to come right in and be able to go head to head with some of those offensive linemen. So yeah, it takes a little bit to get used to that strength and get used to the speed of the game. But yeah, no, I mean it's you got to be able to give full effort, and you got to be able to be tough. I mean sometimes you don't get knocked down, you just got to get right back up. And Coach T likes to say you got to win the one, so it's each play at a time. Last year, playing in those games, that's something that I worked every day for, to be able to play in those type of games. So it's everything that we train for. Coach T does a great job coaching us with everything. Technique. The speed of the game. Everything. So it's nothing that wasn't expected. But yeah, it's like I said, you can be the strongest guy in high school, but once you step on a college football field, it's a completely different game. Yep.
Next question, Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hey, Casey, just curious, what have you seen from Iowa's offensive line overall, besides maybe the fact that they're big dudes, and what is important in particular against the way that in combating the way that they want to run the ball against you?
Yeah, so Iowa is a big left and right team. They like to stretch the ball out and get the ball to the edges, and that the offensive linemen, they're quick. They're not huge, but they're not small, obviously. So they're athletic. They're really athletic, and they can move left to right pretty fast. To be able to go against that, we gotta be just as fast and just as strong. So this week we've been really working, getting knocked back, and being able to stay in our gaps and stuff like that. Iowa, obviously this game is huge. It's a Heroes Trophy, and I think everyone in the locker room knows that, and we want that trophy back. So we've been working really hard this week in practice. I think last week's all said and done. We put it behind us. We learned from it. We've totally moved on to Iowa now, and we're ready to go and compete with them.
Next up is Steve Sipple, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Okay, one more question about last week. You mentioned you learned from it. What did you learn from it? In particular, there's a lot of discussion about what practices were like last week. What were your impression of practices last week?
So with the first question, what did we learn from it? That's not the standard of Nebraska football, especially coming out and competing like that. I think what my impressions of last week's practice was that it was there wasn't as much juice as there normally is, and against weeks moving back before Illinois, so Penn State. Northwestern, there was a good amount of juice in those practices. I just think last week really businesslike, but just didn't have that juice in practice. That's unacceptable, and that's something that we learned was, hey, you practice how you play. So we brought a lot of guys really stepped up this week, and practice was looking the way it should be, and but yeah, that's when I say learn from it, you learn from the past, you don't live in it. That's what Coach T says a lot, is the past is to be learned from and not lived in. So we watch film in that game, we look at what we did wrong, we learn from it, we move on. We're now on to the next week.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Final question for Casey comes from Brian Christopherson, Nebraska 24/7.
Hey, Casey, does this team, you think, have good peer leadership or accountability? Did you feel like it's a team where guys aren't afraid to get after each other? I mean, do you see that where it doesn't always have to come from the coaches, the critiques or criticisms, and it can come from each other?
Absolutely, yeah. When someone's not playing up to the standard of Nebraska football, there's definitely going to be people on you. And I think at least in the D-line room, the older guy, Ben Stille, he does a great job with that. Colin Miller does a great job with that. Will Honus, all the guys who are the vets, they hold that standard pretty tight. And I think last week maybe that standard wasn't held as tight as it should be, and that's what happens when things go that way. But that's another thing that we learn. We got to hold this standard. We got to hold it tight. And yeah, I would say that this team is there's a lot of vets on the team who hold younger guys or guys who still have been around for a while, or even older guys holding other older guys accountable. That happens in Nebraska football, and that's the way it should be.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Casey.
Yep.
And that's all we have for today. But just a reminder, media, that